Preach the word.
I think I will. At least I hope I do. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is so good after so long of seeing either no one in the pews because we're closed and doing it all online, or nearly empty pews because we're just gradually filtering back. What a wonderful blessing it is to see all of you here today. And for those of you who can't attend, those who are watching by YouTube, welcome to you as well. We are here to worship God, and hopefully we'll do it in truth and spirit, because that's really important. We've had a series that Kevin Stewart, who is, by the way, for those of you who don't know, I am a substitute. You will not have to put up with me past another 20, 30 minutes. Kevin Stewart is our regular minister from the pulpit, and Kevin does a wonderful job. My job today is to bring the word of the Lord and make Kevin look good. And so I'm pretty sure I'll get the Kevin look good part. I don't know about the rest, but I'm going to do my best. So we've been doing a series called Weighing Our Words. And I think this is a big deal because we have some truisms that aren't true. I want everybody to finish this sentence together, just to make sure we all know. Now, maybe I find this more and more often. I'll cite an old commercial or something, and people who are much younger than me say, huh? Because they don't know what I'm talking about. So let's try this. All together now. Sticks and stones. So is that a big lie? I think it is. I think it is. The word's a big deal. These guys tell me to preach the word, and I'm going to do my best. That must mean the word's very important. In fact, we've learned and talked about in class, the Word was God, and the Word was light, and the Word came to earth in the form of Jesus Christ. That would make the Word pretty important, like maybe one of the most important things ever. So how come we hear this little ditty, sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me? I know when I heard it, when I wanted to hit somebody in the mouth and I was about in kindergarten, and the teacher would say, no. Just because they say you're ugly or you're fat or you're stupid or any of the other thing, your mama wears army boots, whatever they would say that would get the ire of a kindergartner up, the goal was you can't go punch somebody just because they say something you don't like. Okay, so maybe this works pretty good for that. Maybe this works pretty good for that. But then we get it ingrained in our heart. We can all repeat it. There's a few people that are actually as old as I am in here, maybe a couple that are older. And they still remember it from probably around the same age, when they were 6, 7 years old, and they got this lesson. You're not supposed to hit somebody because of what they say, or shove them, or pinch them, or pull their hair, or do any other stuff that kids do. No es bueno. Okay. So as to discourage violence. That's a good goal. But what also is it telling us? That our words aren't important. We have a similar thing in our society. I'm not going to get into it much because I will get myself in trouble in just a minute, about spanking. Don't spank. You'll teach them violence. But you can scold them, and that won't hurt them as bad. I've heard some excoriating criticisms from parents to kids that at least threatened in my mind to crush their spirit. A sore bottom would be a better deal. Some of the criticism that I have felt and remember to this day, not from my parents, but from others, I'd rather have a spanking. This isn't a class on spanking or Don's theory about child rearing. What it is about the importance of words. Do you think about words when you're just kind of bopping along, living life, and doing what you do? being life-changing? Where they change the whole course of your life. What comes out of your mouth determines whether you're going to heaven or hell. What comes out of your mouth determines whether you'll get the job or not get the job. Or what comes out of your mouth will make you pleasing to God or displeasing to God. How about these words? I think we're going to hear some like these maybe a little later today. There are some folks that are here for a wedding. And they'll probably hear these words. These are life-changing words, are they not? I was at another wedding a few weeks ago. And when they said I do, they were making a lifelong promise. And our statistics say, well, let me put it this way. I think most people, when they stand up there, they really mean it. Till death do we part. Some aren't as earnest about that as others. Circumstances come up, maybe unanticipated. Things happen. So not everybody gets to make that a lifelong relationship, but so it is intended to be. That's a life-changing I do. That's a life-changing pair of words or set of words. That's a big deal. How about I love? I love chocolate. I do. Too much. And I paid some of the consequences. But let's see. Is that kind of like this, which we see so often? Am I getting this right? It is. This is how I say it. This is, I guess, my sign language for I love or love to you. Or we have little hearts on Facebook or other things. Words of encouragement. Words to make someone feel better. They can be used lightly for I like chocolate or I like, whatever. Hamburgers, fill in the blank. My grandfather used to say, yeah, you don't love food, you love people. You don't love food, but that was then. This is now, we use that word a lot. How can this change your life? It might lead to I do, right? That changes your life. That determines who the mother or father of your children are going to be. That determines who half their genetics is going to be. That determines who their kids are going to be, and on and on and on. That's life-changing. More importantly, how about if it has to do with God? Do you remember, think for a moment, Bible memory verse, most important commandment? Anybody? Love the Lord your God with all of your heart, mind, soul, spirit. Life-changing? Yep. Words important? Yep. Do they make a difference? Yep, sure do. So it is critical that we recognize just how important they are, and then that kind of, how about next? I'm sorry. Really? What message are you sending when you give a heartfelt apology to someone? First, I care about you. I care about what you think. I care if I've hurt you. I care if I've let you down. I care if I haven't done what I said I was going to do for whatever the reason. Maybe I've got a great excuse, but the excuse is not, I'm sorry. The I'm sorry part is, I care that I failed to keep my word, meet your expectation. It is a different thing, and it's important. And it tells people the kind of person that you are. Do you think that changes your life? Do you think that changes what other people think about you? It's kind of popular, especially when I was, let's say, a teen. I don't care what other people think about me. I'm not trying to impress anybody. Well, yeah, I am. I'm not trying to impress them, make them think I'm great, but what I do want them to know is they can count on me. I do want them to know that I care about them, and that if they need help, that I'll come and help them. I want them to think that about me. I want to impress that on them. And so I guess, like the sticks and stones thing, that I don't care what people think, was a bunch of baloney. That's really hard for a lot of people. It means if you have real trouble doing that, then that's an exercise that you should work on and develop. If you can't parallel park a car and you live in a big city and drive a car all the time, you need to practice so you can parallel park a car well. If you, and maybe that's out of vogue since we all live in suburbs, but in some places that's not so. But if you have trouble with an apology, I knew one person, it was an important person in my life, he's not around anymore, but was an important person in my life, who said, never apologize. That's a sign of weakness. Wrong. It's a sign of strength. And to use an overused word is a sign of being authentic. I care, I'm sorry, I didn't fill in the blank, whatever it is. Sometimes if you examine yourself and you have real trouble with this, you'll find some deep issues that you can resolve if you'll confront them and deal with them. Like, I don't want to admit that I can be at fault because that might mean that if I'm at fault, that I'm not as good as I should be. Instead of just from the beginning accepting that you're not as good as you should be. Just start off with that because you're not perfect. Newsflash, right? How about, this has got a delay on it, and I'm sorry, because this is sorry. How about dear Father? Dear Father, or our Father. That begins an awful lot of prayers, doesn't it? A sign of respect. Dear, sign of love, endearment. The regard or reverence with which I'm approaching the throne. Life-changing. If you have faith, it's life-changing. How about the word God? That was so holy that there are cultures before us who would not say that. They would say around it. They wouldn't say it because it was too holy. They had too much reverence to actually say the word. That was the thinking. But this can go both ways, right? Blasphemy. This can be a beginning of a curse. And a lot of people use it that way. A lot of people abuse it that way. And usually when they're doing it as a matter of habit as opposed to a deep thought, and I'm hoping that the good Lord, the one whom I have true awe and reverence for, would curse this person or this thing. No, they're not thinking that. It's a speech habit. But these are dangerous words. Blaspheming can not only determine how your life goes here, but for eternity. If you are denying God entirely and disrespecting God, then you're going to have a very unhappy eternity. Your eternity is going to not be here, and it's not going to be in heaven. Your eternity is going to be in hell. And if you believe in heaven, you believe in hell too. Or, same word can be a word used in songs, praise, love. God is love. Big deal word, real big deal word. Prayer. Ultimate gratitude. As Pat and I were driving in this morning, going down 32, which a lot of you are probably more familiar with than you wish you were. As we go down into the valley, there's a valley at McKeever and there's a valley in Batavia. And trees all around, and now they've got some rain and they're filled out completely and they're just beautiful. And it's easy to drive right by that if you do it frequently and not even see it. The miracles that are surrounding us, as Paul says in Romans 1, the evidence is all around us. You cannot escape the miracles of God. When you start with the word God, I hope that you're starting with that gratitude and thanking him for all the things around you, maybe thanking him for the person you're sitting next to right now. And if they're not sitting next to you right now, the person who you wish was sitting next to you right now may be off because they're ill or they've got they have to be someplace else. Because but for God, you would not have that person, you would not have that relationship, you would not have the relationships of all the people in this room. You would not have the relationship of his kingdom. Life-changing? I think so. Let's go to James 3, verse 3. We're going to stay in James 3 for a little bit. And this, I entitled this, Little Bit, Big Horse. When we put bits into the mouths of horses to make them obey us, we can turn the whole animal. And if we go to James 1:26, just a page over in my Bible. If anyone considers himself religious and yet does not keep a tight rein on his tongue, he deceives himself and his religion is worthless. Two pretty strong things, and it all has to do with the mouth and the word. We're taught, and we're going to read in a few minutes in James, that we are not that good with this. Anybody in here who hasn't stuck their foot in their mouth at some point? Said something they really, it's like, I can't believe I said that. And yep, they said it. That would go back to a slide or two before where the apologies come in and say, and believe me, I got lots of things to be sorry for. I've said a lot of apologies for what's come out of this mouth. You keep it running long enough and you're going to say some stuff you really regret. And I'm living proof. We had horses for a long time. We've got a little farm. And for those of you who don't know it, we have a hayride every year, and this year it's going to be the second Saturday in October. And if you come from afar, you're not normally here. If you're in the neighborhood, you folks from New Mexico, be sure and stop by. 3 till dark. Everybody is invited. God has blessed us with a beautiful place to live, and we want to share it with as many people as possible. And we used to board horses, and we had horses of our own for our kids. They did 4-H and all that. And one of the things that you learn if you ride horses very early on, is the use of the bit and the reins. And one of the big deals, even if you get onto a horse that's got a hard mouth and is out for rent and has not been trained to be dealt with skilled hands, if the horse runs away, the horse is in a full charge and is galloping, and the person on the back is usually yelling, which makes them run faster. And it's a bad combination. So what I would teach and what I was taught is and I'm right-handed, so I'd use my right hand unless there's a good reason not to. Pull the horse's head around, just reach out so you're away from the horse a little bit with the reins. You can hold on to the saddle with the other hand and pull the horse's nose around. This is a big, strong horse. They're usually around 1,000 pounds, give or take. They can be a little under and well over, depending on what breed you're talking about. But you can, just because of the leverage, this nose sticks way out here, and you can pull that nose around. And they follow their nose. So if they're going to go, and it's like us, if I turn my head this way, I'm going to go that way generally if I'm walking. I have a natural tendency, even if I'm trying not to. It's hard to turn your head and walk straight. I know soldiers do it, but they've got a bunch of other people in their peripheral vision to look at. It's hard. So the horses don't do that so well. So if you pull their head around, they'll start to run in a circle. And you keep pulling, you can pull the nose almost all the way to your feet, to your stirrup. And they will run in a smaller and smaller circle until they're not running anymore because it's too small for them to run. And while they're doing it, they're getting tired and they're wearing down and they're not as excited. And the emergency passes and you're still on the horse instead of in a pile somewhere with broken bones. The horse follows that little bitty bit, and it works really well. Okay. But it's a powerful animal. Control its mouth, and you control the whole horse. That's James' lesson here. And without the control, for our purposes, the horse is worthless. Now, you can have, just in case there's some horse people in here, there are highly trained horses you can use just with leg pressure and other aids and send all kinds of signals to them without using the bit. In fact, neck reining, you're using the bit almost not at all. You're using the reins and the pressure on the side of their neck. And there's other techniques, and I could go on and on about that, but once again, that's not what this talk's about. This talk is about how important it is to control the horse in order for you to keep him out of danger, to accomplish the task you want. You can't go tell a horse to go cut that cow out of that group. Can't tell the horse to go open the gate. Can't tell the horse to do a thing unless you're guiding it, and you're guiding it typically with reins and a bit. Let's go on to the next verses, 3, 4. So, little rudder, big ship. Or take ships as an example. Although they are so large and are driven by strong winds, they are steered by a very small rudder wherever the pilot wants to go. So, the direction, just like the direction of the ship will be affected by the rudder, the direction of your life will be affected by your tongue. That's the analogy he's making here. If good things come out of your mouth, you are going to have a better life. If the right things come out of your mouth, because the things that come out of your mouth come from your heart, you're going to have a better eternity. It's not just for today and tomorrow and getting a job or making your spouse happy or making your kids feel better. No. It's your whole life. That's an example of a celebrity cruise line ship. And it's not the best example. It looks like on the back they've got 4 props, and the props look like they have outdrive units that also work as rudders. And if that's not accurate, they're about the size that rudders would normally be. You see right down near the stern, trying to find a picture online of a ship that gives a good view of the rudder in comparison to the size of the ship. That gives you an idea. They really are small. That's a big old ship, and it's got 4 pretty darn small rudders. Big ship, little rudders, big horse, small mouth, little bit. Comparatively speaking, my body's a whole lot bigger than my tongue. Some people might contest that. Some people very close to me might contest that. The direction, the tongue is so powerful. It is what confesses faith. It is what establishes your relationship with other people and with, more importantly, with our God. The things that you say not only affect as they come out, reflect what's in, coming out, but they also, you hear them, you coach yourself, and you can become them. Remember, first was the Word, and God spoke the universe into existence. Word created the universe. Word helps to create your attitude. It reflects your attitude, but it also helps you to create your attitude. You can talk yourself into being better than you are, and I hope you do. Faith, hope, or depression and despair. And I wanted to talk about that just for a second. When you get up in the morning, you have a great deal of control over what type of day you're going to have. You don't have total control. You go out and you're driving along, cruising along, singing a song, and somebody smashes you. Well, that's going to hurt your day pretty good right there. You didn't make that happen, unless you were singing so much you weren't paying attention to what you're doing. Chances are you didn't make it happen. But you have control over it. You can get up and drive down 32 and say, look at this beautiful landscape. Look at these big mature trees. It's like I'm going down a hallway of trees. This is gorgeous. I wonder what wildlife is supported by those trees and all the miracles. The miracles is just spring, where the fawns and the birds and all the other creatures that live there are prospering and multiplying and doing all the things that they do. Or you can say, here I am schlepping to work again. Yuck, I wish I was going the other way and going back home instead of going to work, whatever rotten day it is. I got to put up with all this stuff again for a whole nother shift. and etc. Same person, same route, same day. You make the choice. Are you going to talk yourself into hope and faith and think about good things? What are you going to feed your mind with? Are you going to feed your mind with words that are encouraging for you? Or are you going to feed your minds with things that are depressing to you? You're going to tell are your words going to tell you that you're a loser? Man, I can't get anything right? Or are your words going to tell you that I'm a child of God and that people love me and I love people and that that's important and that God loves me and he's made me promises, and if I do the things that he's asked me to do, it is not a one-way relationship, then I will be rewarded. And if my reward's not today because I do get hit in an accident, my reward will be no later than when I leave this earth, but probably sooner. Probably sooner, but no later than when I leave this earth. Little tongue, big life. Then he goes in 5 through 8. Likewise, the tongue, this is pretty harsh stuff. Likewise, the tongue is a small part of the body, but it makes great boasts. Consider what a great forest is set on fire by a small spark. The tongue is also a fire, a world of evil among the parts of the body. Just a cigarette butt can cause that. Happens all the time. This is what it can do to your life. It corrupts the whole person, sets the whole course of his life on fire, and is itself set on fire by hell. My goodness, that's powerful stuff. It's true stuff. That spark causes devastation. This spark can cause and does cause devastation if it's permitted to do so. Can cause and does cause. When I was in law school, we had a renowned, kind of the premier criminal defense attorney for criminal procedure. It's a course that you have to take. It's on the bar exam. And he told me something, and that's been almost 45 years ago. And I remember it like it was yesterday. 90% of the convictions come from the mouth of the accused. Let me say it again. It's not a joke, and ask any prosecutor or policeman. 90% of the convictions come from the mouth of the accused. Their mouth sets their course. First of all, their mouth said them that was probably where the consent to do some evil, illegal thing started. Hey, do you want to help us go rob this person? Or would you like another drink? Or another toke? Or try this pill, it's great? And they said yes. Okay, I'll give it a try. Their mouth caused the course of conduct that followed immediately after. For the guilty person, his conviction, we can't shut up. Human beings can't. We just can't do it. It sets the course. You don't think about this setting the course for your life. James makes it very, very clear, and he gives really strong examples. It is your mouth that can do gossip. It is your mouth that can do slander, to put down somebody else. It is your mouth that will be at least part of theft, and often theft by deception is all words. And it is your mouth that can do mockery. That is making fun of somebody else in an evil way. So we've talked about gossip a little bit. He also talks about fresh water and salt water. They're not supposed to come from the same place. So it is what's in your heart that comes out of your mouth. If you feed your heart with wholesome spiritual nutrition, that is what will come from your mouth. If you fill your heart with allow evil to permeate it, that is what will come from your mouth. How about contentiousness? A critic, you've heard about that constructive criticism that really hurts. And, well, it's okay because it's constructive criticism. Usually not. It's not okay. How about someone who's always correcting? Whatever it is you say, if there's something about it, they'll adjust it for you. I have to be careful that I don't engage in that because that's something I've got a habit of doing. And habits are hard to break. The tongue is hard to tame. In fact, we can't. Argumentative people, implacable people, divisive people. Yeah, but what about this, and what about that, and what about this? Those are words, and they determine the course of your life, and they can determine the course of the life of those around you, or at least they can. And then there's straight deception. That is lying, misleading, regardless of motive, and it violates God's 9th commandment. Does that affect your life? That's a big deal. Those are just words. They're not sticks, they're not stones, but they're words, and they can ruin your life. And then finally, just plain hurtful words. We're talking about discipline before. The people, spouses and parents say sometimes to their kids, they think, well, I'm just being honest. And I'm saying the thing because you've hurt me. I'm saying the things that I think will hurt you the most because maybe it'll make you not hurt me more. And of course it doesn't. It escalates it. It doesn't. It escalates it, makes it worse. Discouraging words. How about the flip side? Good. I had some very nice comments made to me after class today. That's encouraging. It lifts my heart. It makes me feel good. There's things that just as easily could have been said, yeah, you should have done this, or you ought to do that a little different, or whatever. They're not necessarily discouraging, but they don't lift me the way the encouragement does. And I'm not alone in that. Just like when you leave to drive down 32 on your way to work or wherever it is you go, you can make up your mind to be discouraging, or you can make up your mind to be encouraging to those about you. And we're part of in 10:24 and 10:25 of Hebrews talks about we're not to forsake the assembly of the church. How come? Well, you're supposed to, before you come here, think about how you may spur one another on to good deeds and lift each other up and encourage one another. We're coached to do that. Sincere admiration. Dale Carnegie wrote a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, that was published around the end of the 20s, beginning of the 30s, somewhere in that vicinity. Human psychology, straight human psychology. Well put, simple. He talks about sincere approbation and praise. Admiring someone, not baloney. Oh, you look so good today when they're a mess. No, think of something that's really real. Tell them something that you know about them. I'm so glad you're here today. You're always here on Sundays, and I really appreciate that. That's an encouragement to me. Or fill in the blank, whatever it is. You can be encouraging, and it's not usually too hard to pick somebody to encourage, but it shouldn't really be such a strain that you have to worry about picking someone. It should be easy because you're going to encourage almost all the people you have a chance to talk to in some way. It's a habit. Come on, come on. I don't know why this is, there it goes. Okay, then it double does it. All right. So, peacemaker. Blessed are the peacemakers, right? Those are the people who suggest no retaliation. Those are the people who, when you come complaining about your spouse and you say, I can't believe she does this and she does that, or he does this and he does that, most people will try and affirm them by saying, I wouldn't put up with that either. I don't blame you. Instead of, well, I've heard of a counselor that's really good. Maybe you guys can work that out. Have you tried some act of kindness as opposed to just affirming and saying that no good so-and-so? This is the peacemaker. Those that will encourage the return of kindness for an insult. And then there's truth. Guard your heart that you'll not allow bad things to seep in, and then you can be honest and the good will come from your mouth because you'll be looking for the good. And if you're looking for the good, then you can be quite honest when you're delivering it because you're prepared. And then just blessing. God bless you. You just sneezed. You coughed. You just did a really good act. God bless you. That was so kind. It was good of you to bless that person. We got those words from Christ. Use them. They say something about you, and they say something about your orientation. They say something about your belief in God. Loving words. I love you. We're too sparse with that, or we can be very sparse with it. So let's look at Proverbs 18:21 briefly. One verse. The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. You can't tame it. It says we can't tame it later in James. It says that we can tame horses and we can tame all kinds of animals, even sea animals we can tame, but we cannot tame the tongue. And the devil is the one that drives it, and it's up to us to do the best we can to control it. And we're told specifically in Proverbs that what comes out of this mouth via our tongue is a life and death matter. The words that come, and what's scary is we're going to eat them. If I right now had to make a list of all the rotten things I've said, that would be one sorry supper. In fact, I don't think I'd live long enough to consume it all. I'm sure I wouldn't. So we have a big lie that we've all been imprinted on our brains, sticks and stones, and words will never hurt me, and that's just not true. They have to do with eternity. They have to do with our relationship with God. So let me tell you about the most profound words that I could think of for our talk today, if it'll come up. Come on, it'll do it. There we go. I believe. I believe the great confession, the confession that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. He came because God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, and that those who believe in him will be forgiven, will be God's people, and will go to heaven for eternity. For those of you who have been baptized for the forgiveness of your sins into Christ, you've given an outward sign that this is my belief. I believe. I believe. That comes from my tongue. And when I say that and I mean it with all my heart, I set the course and the direction for the rest of my life. Will I stray from it? Of course I will, because I am a human. I can scarcely draw breath without a sinful thought. However, God has given me the answer for that. He made the sacrifice for me with his precious Son. If you believe that and you have not been baptized for the forgiveness of your sins, we can sure do it now. If you're watching on YouTube and you have not been baptized, call the church. We will make arrangements. We will see to it you have an opportunity to be baptized into Christ. And then be forgiven. And then go forth and do as he did. God made the whole world and universe with his words. We can't do that, but what we can do is make more Christians if the example we give personally and the words that we use are the words of Christ and the words that we've been taught by his disciples. If you have any need, even if it's just the prayers of the congregation at this time, please come forward now as we stand and sing.